Hello, everybody. Welcome into this edition of North Star Takes podcast with myself, Jacob Liberta. And as you can see, Bailey is still out, but we have a special guest in the house, a good friend of the show, and Minnesota Wild expert. Break down this team right now. They're hot. They've won 7 in a row. I think there's a lot to dig into, so that's what we're going to do tonight. But before we get into that, as always, hit that subscribe button below. We always appreciate the support from you guys, and also, you can continue to consume our Minnesota sports content we have to offer that way. And also hit that like button if you're really feeling good where this Wild team is at. I personally would say this is the best NFL Minnesota team since I think the Vikings won the Minneapolis Miracle. So that's obviously been some time now. So hit that like button for whatever reason you feel good about this Wild team for. And then also be sure to catch up with us on the socials on Twitter at North Star Takes and on Instagram at North Star Takes Podcast. We appreciate all the interaction with you guys and hearing your opinions, whether you agree with me, Bailey, and whoever or not. But be sure to give us a follow there and stay up to date with all the videos we're releasing. But with that said, let's get right into it. Currently, this Wild team, like I said, they've won 7 in a row now. They've won a couple marquee games lately against some good Canadian teams with Toronto and one of the best games at the X there's probably ever been. And then a big win against Edmonton, one of the most prolific offensive teams in the league, with obviously the duo everybody knows, McDavid and Draisaitl. But you go on and on about this team. We're tied at the top of the league for goals scored through 25 games. I think that's huge. But what are your really thoughts? I guess we're about a third of the way, or not quite a third, but pretty close to it into the season. And this team is alone on top of the Western Conference. So I guess what are your first impressions of this Minnesota Wild squad?
Yeah, so I mean, this team, they're at 37 points. So that's obviously top in the West. It's outstanding. I can't remember the last time a Minnesota Wild team was actually like on top of the West. About a third through the season. I mean, this team's just been on an absolute tear. You got great goaltending. Like it's been great as of late. It was a little shaky at the beginning of the year, but
especially in Edmonton.
Yeah, in Edmonton.
Huge performance by Talbot.
Yep. But I mean, like last night, Talbot made 38 out of 39 saves, which is outstanding. I mean, he basically, I don't want to say he kept us in the game, but like, because we won 4-1. But I mean, he was making some outstanding saves that could have very much resulted in goals.
Yes, I totally agree. I think Edmonton was playing with quite a fast pace last night, so that could have got out of hand. So that's why I think if that kind of game played out over a, let's say, playoff series or something like that, like it's probably not a sustainable way for the Wild to win, for Talbot to get peppered that much. But found a way last night. That's what this team continues to do lately, whether it's Edmonton or whoever. We find ways to win. Even when we have these rough second periods lately, we still overcome that, and that's huge. I think that's a big thing, a big theme with this team this year is overcoming adversity, really. But that's probably one of the things I like. I think I've said that before with Bailey in our previous videos here, and I kind of want to get your impressions now or your takes on this. What do you like about this Wild team, I guess, at this point, whether it's a player, a concept, or whatever it might be, a stat that maybe stands out to you?
Yeah, so I was thinking about this earlier today. I know I was listening to the broadcast last night, and Wes Walls brought this up. But defensemen have really been hopping up into plays a lot more than they have in the previous, not even just last year, just previous years before that.
Yes.
I really like how Brodin has stepped up his game a lot. He looks like he's actually becoming like an offensive defenseman, like what we drafted him as.
He's so quick.
I know he is, and he makes a lot of good plays. Like, when you're playing with confidence like this, you can afford as a defenseman to hop up into the play and maybe be more aggressive, because that's how you're going to get. I mean, that's how you're going to score goals. And obviously, like with Jared Spurgeon out right now, who knows how much longer he'll be out. But I think, just the other defensemen really stepping up and playing really well. So.
Yeah, I totally agree. I love that you brought up Brodin specifically, just because I think he's more important to this team than people might even realize, like the common fan might even realize, just because I think it might be easy to forget that I think it was in Game 7 last year against Vegas when the Wild were eliminated. I'm pretty sure Brodin went down like within the first few minutes of the first period in that game. And then obviously you're playing shorthanded one. Like that's hard to adjust without any defenseman like that goes out right at the beginning of the game, was going to miss the rest of the game. I think that was a huge injury for the Wild, if I'm not mistaken. I think that was Brodin who went down last year, right?
Yeah, I think you're right.
And I think that played a big part in us losing that game 7 inevitably. Like, there's obviously a lot of contributing factors, but I think Brodin is as important as any defenseman we got, whether that be this year or the last few years, really. So I think he's really holding his own now. He's been in the league 8 years, and I think he's getting better every year. And I think that's huge for the success of this team, especially when we have a lot of new faces in the rotation this year with guys like Kulikov and Merrill and Goligoski and players like that. So I think it's huge to have that stability with Brodin to go along with Spurgeon, especially. So,
Yeah. And kind of speaking about defense,
mm-hmm.
I've noticed our penalty kill has been a lot better as of
Yes.
late. I mean, last
That's
night we
been
were
huge.
5 for 5 against a very good Edmonton team, and
Exactly.
they got a lot of skilled players.
They're tops in the league in power play percentage this year.
Yep. So going 5 for 5 on the kill last night was outstanding. I mean, that basically won us the game.
Oh, easily. Yeah. So that's the thing is I'm really, really happy about that because that was a huge concern early. But I think a lot of that had to do with us just taking too many bad penalties, way too many minutes in the box compared to the rest of the league. So I think that's slowly getting better. So I think that's good. And hopefully that continues to trend in the right direction. But did you have anything else to add as far as what you like about this Wild team?
I mean, I just have a little thing. The coaching is just outstanding. I mean, Dean Evanson really knows how to coach his guys. I mean, I wish our power play would be a little bit better. I think we're 28th in the league right now.
Mm-hmm.
Hopefully it gets better over time. But, I mean, overall coaching, I mean, if you're dominating 5-on-5, you're going to win a lot of games as long as you can stay out of the box. And, I mean, obviously you need to clean up the penalties, but, you know.
Yes, I totally agree. I think that's a big thing. I think a lot of good teams are good in the power play, so that will have to improve. But for what it's worth, I know it's not the power play exactly, but when we bring on an extra man at the end of the game when we're down, like we've had a lot of success with that this year. So I think that's big, and maybe that can help us improve the power play going forward. But let's.
And I'm not trying to like nitpick the power play or anything because I mean, when I can't even remember last time we really had a good power play. Yeah. I mean, we're winning games, so like
that's all
does
matters.
The power play really matter? Yes and no, but if this team can like be middle of the pack in power play, this team's gonna take another step, and they're gonna be very, very difficult to beat.
Yes, I totally agree with that. I think that's just extra production that we just haven't had this year, and we're still finding ways to win. So it's like you're just taking our team another level, and I'd say another guy or another extra asset that we haven't really unlocked yet this year is Fiala. Really, it's been on the unluckiest player in hockey, I would say, this season. So I think there's still more to be had there. I think he's gotta the way he's playing, he's got to get hot at some point and start putting a lot of pucks in the net in quick succession. So I'm excited to see when that happens. I think it's going to happen. Do you feel the same way or not?
With Fiala, like here's the thing with him. Don't quote me on this, but I'm pretty sure he hit the post last night. Of course, again.
Yes, of course.
But what I like about him is he's continuing to try and score. Not saying other players don't, but like he's been through. He's a goal scorer, so he's been through a tough stretch where he's not getting goals. He's just not really doing much, but he's still driving the net hard, trying to get that, snap that streak of no goals. And I still like how hard he's playing, and he's not so much playing for himself anymore, but he's more playing so the team can win.
Yeah, I totally agree. I think he's been a big team guy this year, which is huge. He's going hard every night. Like you said, when you get in these slumps and where you can't score, I think guys can definitely shy away from going after these chances that he has, but he's still going after it. And I think that's great. And eventually the tide's got to turn for him in his favor. So I'm excited for when that happens. And I think, like I said, that's going to be another level to take this team to. But now we've talked about the positives for a little while. I'm curious to hear what you don't like about this team. I know there isn't a whole lot to point out with this, but I'm curious what you will. So what do you like about the Wild?
Yeah, you kind of touched base on this earlier. I don't really care for how many penalty minutes we're getting because great. Our penalty kill's great right now, but how long can we keep this up? And I want to think that we can keep it up for a while, but in reality, we're fifth in the league right now in penalty minutes with 264. which is a lot of minutes. Now, granted, that is with fights.
Yes,
So,
Foligno's out there protecting everybody.
Yep. So you gotta take fights into account, but still being 5th in the league. I don't want to like I said, this team's playing great. Not trying to nitpick very many things, but that's kind of unacceptable. Yeah. And that's honestly a discipline thing.
I totally agree. I think that's on the players out there not take stupid penalties. So I can't agree more with that. Not liking that, because that's been a concerning trend. But hopefully that gets better as time goes on.
Right. And I actually have an example from, I know we keep talking about last night's game being so great. And we've had a lot of good wins this year and a lot of good wins recently, but just an example from last night. There was a play in the 3rd period I was watching, and Jordan Greenway got a little frustrated and slashed somebody's stick out of their hand. Those are the type of penalties I'm talking about. Those are the ones that you can avoid. It's that's like a controllable.
Exactly. No, I totally agree with that. That's a really stupid one to take and putting your team in a bad spot. Thankfully, like you said, we were 5 for 5 in the penalty kill last night, but you're not going to get that lucky every night. So I think that's a big thing to be able to have some more self-control on. But speaking of things you might not like, I'm curious where you're at with Matt Dumba these days. I know you haven't been a big Dumba guy to this point. I'm curious if your tune has changed on that, or if you're still not a big fan.
Well, I'm not for fans out there. I'm not a huge Dumba fan in the first place. I think he makes a lot of bonehead plays. Granted, he's a very aggressive player, and he likes to jump up into plays, which I'm fine with. However, I don't think he's very good at playing defense, and I think he's out of position a lot, and he turns the puck over way too much, especially in our own zone.
Yeah, I can't agree more with that. I think that happens way too often, especially in these losses. I feel like it's very glaring. So I think that's definitely something to watch, especially if we fall into a skid. That could be a contributing reason. But I will say, to Dumba's credit, I think he is a pretty good leader in the locker room. I think it seems like everybody likes him and gets behind him, and I think that's a huge thing for this team across the board, whether it's him or Foligno or Spurgeon. Like, I think these guys are well respected, and I think it's just their openness to hearing everybody out and in the entire locker room, so everybody has a voice, and it's not just the Parisi suitor, and that's what we're going with kind of thing. So I will give Dumba credit for the intangibles, like not necessarily his actual play, but his leadership, I think, is there.
Yeah, I can get behind that. I think Dumba, like, I'm not really sure how many penalty minutes he's gotten this year, but I don't know if I really see him in the box a whole lot. But kind of just being more disciplined, making smarter passes, not maybe so much being more conservative, but I think just sometimes he just makes bonehead plays, and it sometimes costs the team, and then fans get upset because you're like, what are you doing?
Yeah, sure, definitely. I think that's very evident in the losses, like I said. So that could definitely be something that could get better as time goes on, hopefully. But let's jump into a new topic here.
Can we? I was gonna say one more thing.
Oh, sure, go for it.
So I like to kind of rip Matt Dumba because I think he's a better player than what he shows sometimes.
Okay,
but he's not the guy I really am keeping my eye on a lot. I know Nick Bukestad is one of them. He has contributed nothing this year. that dude. If there is a guy on this team that I would want gone, as Nick Bukestad. He has 3 goals and no assists. He has 3 points all season. Granted, he's a 4th liner, but still, no assists. That's unacceptable.
Yep.
Also,
I think that's fair.
Also, Jordan Greenway has been a pretty big disappointment this year. I know he has 2 goals, 5 assists, but I don't know. I feel like he's just out there to skate. I mean, honestly, here's the thing. Here's the thing with him is you'll bad an eye. He's got a plus minus of 12, so he's plus 12 on the ice. Granted, I mean, he plays with guys like Foligno sometimes. So like with him, I'm not looking at plus minus. I'm looking at production.
Yep.
Going back to Bukestad,
that's the eye test.
Yeah, the eye test. Going back to Bukestad, he's a -3. And my last guy for my 3 worst are Freddie Gaudreau
Oh yeah, he does nothing
and
for me.
and he's got 2 goals, 8 assists. Now he's not as bad as the other two, I don't think, but he's got a plus minus of -4, which I don't like guys with minus.
No,
But
absolutely not.
I mean, hopefully these guys can turn it around and be great, but I'm not expecting them to. I feel like Freddie Gaudreau is kind of just a fill-in guy. I don't know how
Yeah,
long I don't know how long his contract is, but
yeah.
you know,
He's just a
whatever.
placeholder. I think
He's
we'll
just
find a way to replace him, whether
like
that be in the middle of the season or next off
yeah.
season.
But yeah, my focus is more on the other guys on our team,
Yeah,
like Kirill, Ryan Hartman, and Marcus Foligno.
yes, totally. And
Those guys are outstanding right now.
yeah, I totally
Especially
agree.
Ryan Hartman. I was not expecting that.
Oh my
He's
gosh.
actually got the highest plus minus on the team, 21.
Yes. Yeah, I think it was last week when I checked that he was top 5 in the league in plus minus, which kind of blew my mind. I mean, he's putting together a phenomenal season. He's playing out of his mind. He's playing on like a $1.7 million contract or something after I think he took a pay cut with the Wild this last offseason. So that's huge
Yeah,
value for this team.
I think he's getting 1.7 million or something, which is not a lot.
Yeah,
For
exactly.
his
It's nothing.
production right now, that's not a lot at all.
That's out of this world. So I think that's a huge. I think that happens though when you have a championship team and you're actually gonna put together a championship season. You get performances from guys you just don't expect. Like they just rise up and play way above their skill level. And in those seasons, you really got to take advantage as a team when you get uh, really Foligno and Hartman scoring goals right and left. It feels like I feel you got to take advantage of that and
Yeah. Kind of
make that worth some at the end.
yeah, exactly. No, I was just gonna say kind of a fun fact about Marcus Foligno.
Yeah.
His shot percentage right now is 25.6. That means he scores 1 goal for every 4 shots he takes,
Holy smokes!
which is very efficient. The only
Yes.
person on our team that's better, that
Mm-hmm.
has played like more than 10 games, is Rem Pitlick.
Oh,
Get this, he has a 45.5% shot percentage. That means he scores almost a goal.
almost every other shot.
Yeah,
Jeez. Get the puck on that guy's stick. Oh my
no
goodness.
kidding.
All right. Speaking of all these fun stats, these good ones, let me ask you, what's your biggest surprise of the season? Whether it's Rem Pitlick maybe coming out of nowhere as a waiver claim, or Foligno or Hartman. I mean, there's a lot that you could point to here, but what's your biggest one?
Yeah, I mean, I wasn't expecting this team to be this good. I was expecting this team to be good. I wasn't expecting to be this good. I mean, they're blowing teams out,
Yes.
or they're like putting up lots of goals,
It's
like
gaudy
against these
stats.
really good teams and like sticking with them. I would say my biggest surprise would be just the production from some of these guys. I know Hartman has 13 goals. If you would have told me Ryan Hartman had 13 goals a third of the way through the season, I would have told you were crazy. I think he's on like a 50 plus goals for the season pace or something
Yeah,
like that.
that sounds right. If we played 25 games, he has what you said, 13 goals.
13 goals. Yep.
Okay, or I think he'd be on a
Maybe not quite 50,
around
around
probably 45 or something. Yeah,
45. Sure.
yeah, something like that. So
Um,
that's unheard of. You never
yeah,
would expect him to score anywhere near that.
exactly. And like a guy like Rem Pitlick just plays his heart out every single night.
Yes.
And like he's contributed too. I know. I'm pretty sure he had a hat trick earlier this season, which
Yeah, he
was,
did.
and I mean that's where most of his goals have came from. But
Hmm.
he's still out there. He's still grinding and still playing hard. So you can't really knock the guy for that.
No, he's
Um,
definitely deserving.
yeah, I know. I would say the last biggest surprise I have
Hmm.
is the goaltending. Both of
Yeah,
our goaltenders have under a 3 goals against.
that's huge.
That is huge. I think Cam Talbot has a 271,
That sounds
and
right.
then Kakinen has a 287 or somewhere something along those lines.
Hmm.
So yeah, that's really promising. You got 2 solid goaltenders. You're gonna need both of them going forward.
Yes, absolutely. I think goaltending's huge because like even if your team really doesn't play a great game, goaltending alone can borderline win it for you as long as you can put 1 or 2 pucks in the net and your goalie just has a phenomenal performance. You can win almost any game. So I think that's huge, and I think especially when we're putting goals on the board as much as we are right now. I mean, tied for first in the league and total goals scored with Florida. I think then that makes a goaltender's job easy. It takes a little pressure off, and I think then they play a little bit better because they don't feel like they have to worry about letting a puck or two in the net. So I think that's huge. And I'm really hoping that this continues. They don't hit any massive cold spells or anything, and hopefully Kakinen too gets better as he gets more run. Just because I think he's probably more in the future than Talbot is, but I guess Talbot's not like that old, but I mean he's older for what that's worth. So I think that's worth monitoring, seeing how much time Kakinen gets as the season goes on. Because obviously Talbot is playing a lot of the games right now, so I think that's worth monitoring too. But with that said, let's see anything else to add on that.
Um, no, I think we're probably okay on that.
Sure. Yeah. All right. And then let's get to the last question here. I think this is the biggest one. Me and Bailey have been talking for weeks about is this Wild team capable of winning the division? But I think after this recent hot streak, I think it's time to think bigger. So when I ask you, put you on the spot, can this team win a Stanley Cup? I think that's what everybody wants in this town, in the state, and well, I mean, with the state of hockey for crying out loud. I think we deserve it. Do you think this team is really capable of it?
Yeah, I personally think we can win the Stanley Cup this year. I know you guys have been talking about winning the division. We're
Mhm.
7 points up right now on the Blues, which is a lot.
Yes, that's all I
For
know.
being a third of the way through the season, if you're 7 points up already,
Mhm.
that's pretty good. But Stanley Cup, I think that this team, I think the only way it could be a failure of a year is if this team doesn't make it to the Western Conference Finals. I think this team has the capability of doing it, and I think the Western Conference Finals would be the absolute minimum for
You think
me.
that's the floor, huh?
Yep.
All right, I like
Um,
the high expectations.
yep. I mean, they're playing so good, and you got to think about if they keep playing this way, they're going to trade, so they're going to
Yeah.
get another piece. Oh, you would hope.
Hmm.
Um, but also going to this team has only lost twice at home so far this year.
That's nuts. That's a huge home
So
ice advantage.
yeah, exactly. And another fun fact
Hmm.
is the last time that we've scored under 3 goals was November 16th.
Whoa, geez, so we're pushing a month on that now. So that's incredible. Every
Yeah.
time you score, you said that was the last time we scored three or less.
So the last time we scored under 3 goals was
Under
November 16th.
Okay, yeah, okay, yeah.
And
So
then
if you score three or more, you have a good chance of winning almost any game.
exactly
But
that's what I'm saying. That's why we won so many games lately. And the last time we scored under 4 goals, or excuse me, we only scored under 4 goals 3 times in the whole month of November.
wow,
So
that's insane offense.
and one of the games was a 3-2 win over the Devils. So really, we've we've only scored under 3 goals twice in the entire month of November.
Sheesh, that's crazy. I
I
didn't know
know.
that.
I mean,
That's
this
a pretty
this team is
fun stat.
offensive efficiency is out the roof. I
Yeah.
mean, you're scoring 3 goals a game, 4 goals a game. You're giving yourself a great chance to win.
Yes, I totally agree. I think I this team has all the makings of a Stanley Cup contender, especially with the way they're playing right now. They're winning against the best teams in the league. So, and we're alone on top of the Western Conference a third of the way into the season. So, especially when you say that we've only lost two games at the X, and you think about it, if you're top in the Western Conference, you have home ice throughout as long as you're in it. If you're only losing two games, 2 months, almost 2 months into the season at home, then that's going to be hard to put you out of the playoffs. So I think you're kind of right that I think the absolute floor I think has got to be at least winning a series, but I think realistically it should be Western Conference Finals, especially when you consider I think the Wild need to do that considering everybody else in the division besides I think Colorado, everybody else in the Central Division. Well, now Arizona's in it, but like the original Central Division, I guess everybody's been to at least the Western Conference Finals since 2015. So
Right.
I think it's time for the Wild to join the party, and I think this year's got to be it, right?
Yeah, you would hope. Hopefully, we don't have a meltdown in the playoffs. I mean, hopefully, one of our teams, like we've been talking about, can stack up and win and go on a little run.
Yeah.
I think for as of right now, 1/3 of the way through the season, I think our best competitor or biggest threat, I should say, is
Mhm.
not even in our division. I think we can beat anyone in our division handily. I think
Oh, handily.
Calgary's very good.
Yes.
Calgary's only 2 points under us. They have 35, but I mean they're not in our division. But if you're going
So,
full Western Conference, they only have 2 less points than us.
yeah, they're a team to watch out for. And I still feel like it remains to be seen with a team like, for instance, I know we keep talking about Edmonton because of last night's game, but with Edmonton, they've only won one playoff series with McDavid, I think, as long as he's been there. And
That's kind of
I
unacceptable as
Yeah, That's horrible, and that makes you think like even if we like moved along the playoffs and got to that Western Conference Finals, what are the odds we play a team like Edmonton even? So I think, like you said, maybe the most realistic opponents for that would probably be, I would say, Calgary, or I still feel like Vegas is going to come up. I feel like I've monitored them too close, but I think they've had a lot of injuries at this point in the season. But I still feel like they're going to get better. I think that's a good team, but I still think we can hang with Vegas. I mean, historically, we're pretty good against them. I know we lost that series last year in seven, but like we're a much better team now. So who knows? I think if we can get out of our division at least, I think that'd be a huge stepping stone for this franchise. We never have in this current format. So I'm really hoping that happens. Then we at least have a chance. Because, like you said, I don't think there's a lot of teams that we can't handle in this Western Conference, if at all. I mean, we could probably win against any of these teams. It's hard to say right now, but you've got to be playing your best hockey at the end too. I think that's very important. But do you have any closing remarks before we close this one out?
No, I guess the only thing I have to say is, I mean, enjoy it while you
Yes,
can. I mean, we're on a
absolutely.
hot streak right now. Hopefully, we can continue this throughout the season, maybe go on a little run through the playoffs. And I mean, right now it's an exciting time for Minnesota Wild hockey. So
100%. I think that's a great note to end on. I think this is one of those seasons where you can't take for granted. I mean, obviously, right now the streak they're in, they won seven in a row. I think that's huge. You got to turn them on every night you can. But I think just the season in general, these special seasons don't come around that often. I mean, hopefully they do with the score we have. But I mean, you just never know what's next. So I think definitely enjoy the season while it's here and watch as many games as possible and enjoy this team because. They're hot, and I think, like we just got done saying, I think they're a true championship contender, which is that's saying a lot for a Minnesota team. I know we've all been burned and snake bitten by that before when we get our hopes up, but I think it's time to go all in and let your guard down and get excited. And hopefully, this doesn't end in misery at the end, but you never know. It's one of our teams, so we'll see. But
wouldn't that just be the worst if we lost in like the first round? Oh, I'd be so upset.
oh, I'd punch a hole in a wall. Oh my gosh, that'd be so frustrating.
Let's not think about that, but you always have that in the back of your head about a
Oh,
Minnesota sports team.
100%. You got to guard yourself at least a little bit because you know disaster is right around the corner. It could happen at any moment. So, especially, it usually happens when you get your hopes up the most. So, I think it's worth buying in right now, especially when we're still far off from the playoffs where nothing looks too clear yet, but enough to the point where we look like a good team that's worth buying into. So, yeah, that's going to do it though for this edition of the North Star Takes podcast. Like I said at the top of this video, be sure to hit that subscribe button to continue to consume our Minnesota sports content, especially the stuff with the Minnesota Wild when they're playing as great as they are, and also hit that like button to spread the word about how hot this team is. And again, be sure to catch up with us on the socials as well, on Twitter at North Star Takes and on Instagram at North Star Takes Podcast. And feel free to comment below your thoughts on this team. What do you like? What do you not like? What's your biggest surprise of the season? And let us know if you think this is a true Stanley Cup contender. I mean, we certainly do, and I know Bailey does too. And he'll be back on soon enough to tell you all about it. But for now, that's going to do it. And thanks for watching.